All right, Andre. So I know you and the team have been hard at work on this new Kubernetes client. I've seen some screenshots and a quick demo, but I really want to dig in. Why did you build this?
Shelby, I'm so excited to talk about this. I cannot wait to demo it.
All right. Well, before we demo, can you give us a quick overview of what Kubernetes actually is? I know about this much. I know it's super important, but I want to understand more. Why?
Yeah, yeah,
What's the
yeah.
big
That's a
deal?
that's a fair question. So Kubernetes has really become the platform of choice for deploying applications, and here's
Okay.
why. Over the last whatever decade or so, containerization has really taken off. Everybody's rewriting their apps into containers, and so instead of running apps directly on servers, teams them up, and everything's done into containers, and that makes them portable, predictable, and super easy to scale. And
Okay.
so along the way, Kubernetes has come along as the orchestrator, the tool that manages all those containers and decides, where should they run, keeps them healthy, automatically scales things up or down when traffic changes. And so at this point, a huge part of the internet or many applications on the internet actually are powered by Kubernetes. And you might not see it every day, but there's a big chance that your favorite app or streaming services, the odds are that Kubernetes is powering it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So very popular. But of course, all that power comes with some complexity as well. And that's where things get a little bit more tricky.
Okay. All right. So we kind of depend on it. And it sounds like, yeah, it's super powerful. It sounds like it's like the backbone of everything we're doing. But tell me more about what makes it so challenging.
Yeah, well, there's a few challenges, but so first challenge is right up our alley. Like, how do you get access to this cluster? How do you interact with it? And
Hmm.
there's a bunch of different ways, but the most traditional way is like, oh, you gotta generate some keys. So maybe Shelby joins us on an SRE team. We need to generate some keys,
Hmm.
distribute some kubeconfig files to you securely, and basically that's the typical onboarding, offboarding thing that we often see, right?
Hmm.
So that's the first step. How do we do that securely and easily? And typically people have a whole bunch of shell scripts to manage that. And then second is sort of the day to day. Like most people to interact with these clusters use something called kubectl. And these are basically long commands that allow you to interact with the cluster. It's like a CLI tool.
Okay.
Or to make configuration changes, you typically have to update what we call complicated YAML files. So YAML is like a file structure. And basically, it's a long files with lots of things in it and many knobs and flags. And I think the TLDR here, it can be a bit overwhelming unless you're an expert. Like the experts love this stuff, but not everybody is an expert. It's just a
Yeah.
necessary tool that we all use.
Okay. So yeah, it sounds like, yeah, lots that you could do. But if you're not an expert, where does that leave you? What's your relationship day to day with Kubernetes?
Yeah, that's a good question. And you're right. So most folks just need to do a bunch of basic tasks. And that includes typically, I need to deploy a new version of my application. I
Hmm.
need to check the logs because maybe something is going on. I need to exec into a container for troubleshooting, which basically means get a shell in one of the containers, or maybe scale something up or down. And so that's maybe 5% or 2% or whatever of what Kubernetes can do. But those basic workflows, ideally are just simple and not intimidating because
Hmm.
again, most developers and engineers, Kubernetes is just part of their workflow and it's not their every day. And so we want to make that as easy as possible. And that's why we started investigating it like, hey, how could we make this easier for teams?
Okay, so yeah, that reminds me of what we've done for databases, right? So I'm not a SQL expert, but with Border0, I can run queries. I do it almost every day, very easily in our client and our web client. So this Kubernetes client is kind of the same philosophy, like make those common tasks simple even for non-experts.
Exactly. That is the vision. And like you mentioned, we already had this beautiful web client for SSH and databases and access requests and just discovering in general what I have access to. So
Hmm.
customers started asking us, hey, could you do the same for Kubernetes? And so we're like, well, yeah, that sounds amazing. So we partnered with them, looked at what people are using today, typical things like kubectl, Lens, or other tools. And
Hmm.
honestly, we thought the state of the market wasn't all that great. So we said, let's do it. Let's build it.
I love it. We like a tight feedback loop. So, all right. So instead of wrestling with the kube configs and CLI commands, we can just click.
Yep. That's the idea. Point and click when you need to get things done. So, of course, I love kubectl as much as the next guy or Lens. And to be completely open, you can still use them, right? We're not
Sure.
forcing you. You can use whatever tool you would like to use. I would just say now you have another tool in your toolbox. It happens to be a beautiful, secure web interface that's easy to use. You just log in with your single sign-on identity, open your browser, and voila, there it is. This fully functional Kubernetes web client right in your browser.
Yeah, we love clean UI. So, all right, let's take a look.
Yeah, let's do it. So we have Adriano here. He is one of the engineers who built this, and he's here to walk us through a quick demo.
Awesome. Adriano, take it away.
Hey Andree and Shelby, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to show the world what we've built. Alright, so what we have here is Border0's latest passion project, the Kubernetes client. Under the hood, this is a full-blown Border0 flavored WireGuard VPN client compiled to WebAssembly so that it runs on the browser, and on top of that we've built this gorgeous UI. So let's dive in. First of all, you get this gorgeous dashboard with all the resources in your cluster, pods, deployment, services. If there are any failed resources, they will appear here. You can also see events, active alerts that are firing, and that's just the dashboard. So let's take a look at what it looks like to do some common tasks in the cluster. If we go to pods here, let's say I'm having some issues with my Nginx pod and I need to debug it. I can just filter for it. I can just click here to see the logs. We can tail the logs as well. We can look at the pod configuration, any conditions or events. Can get a shell on the pod. Let's say I want a bash shell. Great. And I can also modify the YAML here directly. So let's say I want to change this label from AAABBB to BBBCCC. As soon as I preview, I can see a rich diff of what's changing, what's being added, what's being removed, and then apply it if I'm comfortable. Great. Now let's look at the deployments page here. Let's say I'm having some load issues with this My Microservice deployment, and I need to scale it up. So we're going to scale it up from the current 5 to 10 pods. I can do that with the click of a button, and then I can see the progress going on here. I can also very quickly filter for My Microservice, see that there are several pods pending, some running already. I can just click refresh. Right, all very easy. And that's just scratching the surface. We also have services, ingresses, replica sets, stateful sets, cron jobs, much more. Can even hook up to Prometheus for metrics, node metrics, pod metrics, all kinds of metrics. And there you have it. The feedback from our customers has been amazing. We've heard from so many of them that this helps them do their job much quicker and all from the browser without having to download any additional software. So we're really proud of this, and I encourage you to give it a go. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriano, for walking us through. I can definitely see why people are excited to use this. I mean, we've really taken something that's usually very complicated and made it feel very approachable.
Exactly. Easy access for engineers without needing to be a Kubernetes expert.
Yeah. All right. So I got to play devil's advocate for a second here. What about the security side of things? What do they get out of
Yeah,
this?
yeah, great question. So for security and compliance folks, Kubernetes creates its own set of challenges and things that need to be instrumented and monitored, etc. So like I mentioned earlier, one of the bigger challenges or when you get started is, how do you even create accounts? How do I onboard people, passing around these kubeconfig files, etc. So with Border0, all of that goes away. Onboarding and offboarding is instant. You basically add someone to the right Google, Okta, whatever SSO you're using group, and immediately they have access, right? And so if they leave, you remove them from the group, immediately access terminating. And since every action is tied to an SSO identity, security teams can see exactly who ran what Kubernetes API command. If someone execs into a pod, you can even see a full session recording, like a video, and see exactly what commands are executed. So it's not just easier for engineers, it's also a big boost in visibility and control for those security and compliance teams.
Awesome. So visibility and control for the security folks, a smooth experience for the engineers, and everyone's happy.
Exactly. And that's basically Border0 in a nutshell, right? Secure and painless.
Awesome. So if you want Kubernetes without the headaches, sign up for Border0, try the web client, and see for yourself.
That's Access Evolved.
Access Evolved.
See you next time.